area. And Avinash here, who is representing Sri Pavan Mulukotla, right? Thank you for showing up today. We have more people joining online. We start the event with the Tamil Thai Varthu. Let's rise for the Tamil Thai Varthu.
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்த கெழியொழுகும் சீராறும் பதனமென நிறவரதர் கண்டனதில் எக்கணமும் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடர்கள் திருநாடும் போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே முன் சீரிழமை திரும்பியன் திசையில் பறந்து வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே.
You to remain standing. We will also play the national anthem now.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you. To mark the auspicious beginning of our summit, I request both of our professors to kindly do the symbolic lighting of the traditional lamp. It is my absolute honor to introduce our chief guest for today, a visionary entrepreneur, a pioneer of the Indian electric vehicle industry, and the mind behind India's first electric car, the Reva. Please put your hands together for the co-founder and chairman of Sun Mobility, Mr. Chetan Maini, as he declares the summit open. Sir, thank you. Thank you for being here. We'd like you to just symbolically call it open, declare the summit open with a wave of your hands, or just get as creative as you can. Yeah. Could you unmute yourself, sir? Is he made the co-host? Because then I think he can be.
Is he able to unmute, or you have to make him a co-host?
So more gestures in the meanwhile.
No, we have to change it here. We have to make him a co-host here.
Okay, you want to do the summit opening with a thumbs up. We want to hear you as well.
Yeah, I can. I guess they've unmuted
right,
me now.
okay,
I
that's-
really, I wish the summit an all success and a great opening for a wonderful summit that over the next days that you go through here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. To set the context for today and to look back at how far we've come, I now invite Professor Ramakrishna, Professor DSI and CEO of MInT Lab to deliver the opening remarks. And a quick word about him, Professor Ramakrishna has been a driving force behind bridging cutting-edge academic research with real-world industry applications. Under his visionary leadership, MInT Labs has grown into a powerhouse for the next-gen mobility solutions. Today, he will share the incredible progress and milestones achieved by the lab over the past year. Sir, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Samir. Good evening to everybody. Respected chief guest, Sri Maini. It's an honor that to kind of interact and to be in your presence. Thank you very much for gracing our opening session here today. Dean Manu Santanam, IC&SR, will be here with us shortly. So will Sri Jay Kumar, member secretary from Kumta. Please, sir, can you please come on the stage? Right. And then learned faculty, government and industry colleagues. MInT has indeed come a long way. In 2024, when we had our first MInT Summit, the vision and the challenge was how to look at these intractable problems around mobility, but with a lens of digital public infrastructure and digital technologies. We did not know what that meant at that time. How are we going to do something like Aadhaar and UPI was going to do in terms of transforming the way we look at the world of mobility, right? So that first summit, we explored how behavior drives mobility. What does it mean to have a digital public infrastructure kind of question, right? We had, we were taking those tentative initial steps, right? And then we kind of had a few believers in MInT, both from the government side as well as the industry side. We had partners who came in and said, hey, your vision is to look at sustainable mobility. What does that mean in terms of the context of safety? How do we make our roads safe? How do we deploy digital technologies to make roads safe? I remember, looking at the speed calming devices on the highway between Chennai and Bangalore. How do we connect the road with the driver? How do we use technology to make them aware of where the difficult and the unsafe points were on the highway, right? So it was a new world that was emerging, right? So then, as we were getting our feet wet, then comes the revolution, right? The AI revolution. I don't know whether it is with a lot of foresight. The MInT Lab was actually set up in the School of Data Science and AI here at IIT Madras. It's one of the founding labs, right? Out of the labs we have at the School of Data Science and AI, out has come, things like AI for Bharat, and of course we all know about Sarvam, and Bodhan AI, and now we have MInT as well, right? Lots of very exciting new kind of possibilities with technology. And it was very interesting that last year's summit, we only looked at how do we use AI to look at safe and sustainable mobility, right? And we were just understanding how could we harness the power of compute in this new world, which is a possibility. It just emerged, right? Where we could not only, of course, you could use language models to understand how we could kind of query and try to make life easier in the world in the context of mobility. But more deeply, how do we use the power of compute to understand the world and bring the physical world into this into this digital domain, right? So that was the artificial intelligence, our ability to make sense of the physical world using technologies that we did not have before, right? So that the power of deploying AI in the context of safety and efficiency were all questions that we discussed last time. And we kind of hinted at the world that was going to emerge, where we were looking at digital twins. And we were looking at how can we actually model and create the world which is powered by these technologies, right? To get more efficient mobility solutions in place. That brings us to what is happening today and for the next 2 days, the power of digital twins. Is that some construction going on? Yeah. Okay, all right. I was just wondering if it was somebody's phone going off. Okay. So the power of digital twins. So over the next 3 days, we are going to be deeply engaging in the thoughts around how do we model, how do we use, how do we operationalize, and how do we kind of leverage the power of this new world to solve real world problems, to make mobility easy to access, safe, and with a lens from the consumer of mobility. You know, how do we look? You'll see a number of startups kind of, as on the third day with the hackathon, they are looking at the context of how does a person move on the pedestrian sidewalks? How do they navigate, potholes and breaks on the sidewalk? What is the technology that they would use? What would be the technology a blind person would use? Right. So those are the kinds of things that we are going to be seeing. But more importantly, we are also going to see the power of how do we model entire regions, towns, intersections, streets, towns, using in the world of digital twins. What is the standardized methodology for this modeling? Right? Mr. Jaykumar from our Kumta, we are so excited that we can actually participate in creating the digital twin for the city of Chennai, right? Where there are layers beneath our ground, layers on the ground, and we are going to have vertiports very soon. We're going to have airports. We're going to have trains. It is as a new world. And how do we move seamlessly in this world? Now, that's only from the context of the people. What about the context of the logistics, moving materials and goods from point A to point B? How do we get containers efficiently out of the harbors, to the industrial regions of the city? It's a very new world, and we want to explore all of that in this summit. Okay, that is our goal for the summit. Now, we have a small video that is going to recap some of the things that happened last year. one very memorable thing was as the technologies of AI were coming together, India suddenly became a center of the world with the third World AI Summit. It was so exciting to be in Delhi as part of that summit. And what was most interesting and most exciting for me personally was to see all the young people. Okay, you don't have to be in the Bay Area, you don't have to be in Shanghai, or you don't have to be in London to understand that you can harness technology. Ideas can win, and it can win anywhere in the world. And you could see it in the faces of the young people who were actually showing off their ideas, whether it's startups or students, right? And we were also so lucky to be recognized by the government of India as part of the AI mission for sustainable cities as their mobility partner. So Airavat is our partner as well, right? So it is so interesting and so exciting to see the kinds of things that have evolved in the last couple of years. And this third year is promising to be an absolutely riot in terms of the kinds of things we are going to be doing. So with that, I'm going to just have a small video just to kind of recap some of the things that have happened and also recognize the people who have made it happen within the MInT organization, right? Right from the interns, the people who are project associates, the administrators, the tech kind of people, all of them who have actually made all this work, right? So I think Rahul, if you could play that, that'll be awesome. and looking forward to a great year ahead.
Thank you, sir, for sharing the rapid strides by MInT Lab in transforming the mobility ecosystem over the last 12 plus months. I really liked the takeaway. India is the center of the world. You don't have to be, in Shanghai or the Bay Area. It was that was something that will stay with me, and the fact that ideas can win anywhere in the world. We're going to skip. We're going to make a slight change in the schedule. We're moving over to Sri Chetan Maini's address now. So we will follow this with the signing of the new MOUs. So let's have his profile. And as already introduced, he is, in addition to being the founder and chairman of Sun Mobility, he is part of the Maini Group leadership and many companies, including Viri Autonomous. He holds over 40 patents. We are keen to listen to you, sir. Please do share your vision for digital technologies in the age of AI and revolutionizing the mobility ecosystem. Over to you, sir.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you can hear me. So, it's really a pleasure to be here virtually, of course, at IIT Madras and to join so many researchers, technologists, industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and policymakers who are shaping the future of mobility. For more than a century, our industry has been guided by one simple ambition: to build a better machine, better engines, better drivetrains, better batteries, better vehicles. But for over 100 years, that ambition has transformed transportation, connected the world. But something is fundamentally changing, right? Value is no longer created inside the machine. It is increasingly created around the machine. Across energy, across software, across infrastructure, across services, across data. In recent times, I've spoken about how mobility is moving from product engineering to ecosystem engineering. Today, I'd like to take the conversation one step further. Because I believe that the revolution in mobility is not simply electric. It will be intelligent, and at the heart of that transformation lies one of the most powerful ideas emerging today, which is digital twins. It's often said the future doesn't always arrive at once. And I think the easiest way to look at this is look at places the future has already arrived, right? In cars, for example, electric cars, in Norway, 95 to 98% of all new cars sold are electric. In China, 60% of all new electric, or 60% of all cars sold are electric. And to put that in perspective, that's 16.5 million vehicles, and that's more than the total sales of cars in the US. Right? China, 5 years ago, electrification, heavy-duty trucks was almost negligible, probably less than 1%. Today, 30% of all trucks are electric. In fact, in December, it went to over 50%, and almost 30% of them run on battery swapping technology. Right? Interestingly, between 23 and 25, diesel consumption in China actually dropped by 700,000 barrels a day, a 15% decline, where in India during the same period of time, we actually increased our consumption by 5%. So clearly, the most interesting thing wasn't just technology, it was economical. For the first time, customers were getting a better value proposition. Right? Vehicles evolved, infrastructure evolved, software evolved, energy systems evolved, right? Everything evolved together, and suddenly economics made sense. Customers moved because the value improved. And that's what economics do. Ecosystems do. They just don't improve products. They improve the entire outcome of how we think through the entire solutions. Globally, although electric mobility is led by cars, India is very different, as over 70% of all EVs sold in India are two-wheelers, right? And 1.4 million of them last year, with over 60% more in May than last year. So, the growth has been very high. Now, let's take this a little bit closer to home. I, at least, am sitting in Bangalore today, a city that has sold over 90,000 electric vehicles last year. And the national average is around 9% for two-wheelers, but a city like Bangalore has already hit 28%, or 3 times the national average. Right? If you translate that to all India, that would be 4.5 million vehicles, which means in the next 2 to 3 years, we should start to see the growth rate that's fairly exponential. Nationally, if you look at three-wheelers, over half of all three-wheelers sold in the country are electric. And in certain states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, over 90% of all three-wheelers in passenger segments are electric. I think what are the examples telling us, right? That the future isn't 10 years away. The future is already here. It's just unevenly distributed. And when economics start to make sense, transitions don't happen gradually. They happen all of a sudden. So electrification, however, is still in the beginning stages, but electric vehicles, the way we think through them, they're really a connected computer, right? Each connected battery becomes a source of intelligence. Every charging or battery swapping station becomes another node in the network of digital network, right? Every major technology revolution begins by changing what we can see. Steam engines gave us mechanical power, electricity gave us distributed power, computing gave us information, AI is giving us a lot more understanding, digital twins gives us something even more valuable. They give us the ability to understand complex physical systems before they even fail, to experiment before we build on them, to optimize before we spend, right? To continuously learn instead of periodically. And that fundamentally changes the performance and economics of mobility. That is why I believe digital twins are not simply another software technology. They're becoming the operating system of intelligent mobility ecosystems as we grow them. Now, when we hear the word digital twins, right, people imagine virtual 3D models. I think, of course, for the team here, we understand it's more powerful than that, right? It is a living, continuously evolving representation of a physical asset or system. It learns from the real world. It reflects changing operating conditions. It can help predict the future behavior, and over time enables us to make better decisions that any human being could do manually. Imagine every battery continuously monitoring itself. Imagine every vehicle sharing how it's driven, every station understanding demand patterns, every fleet optimizing itself in real time, every renewable source of energy communicating with storage systems. Now imagine all of these systems learning from each other. And that's the true promise of digital twins, not isolated models, but connected intelligence. You know, at Sun Mobility, we were often described as a battery swapping company, right? But we're much more than that. We think of it as technology and energy, right? Every battery on a network actually has a digital identity. From the date it's manufactured, we create a digital twin of the battery, right? Each battery continuously reports how it's being used. Every swap station understands demand patterns. Every swap contributes another data point, or 140 points every second, right? Every fleet teaches us something more about an operating conditions. And millions of these interactions create an evolving understanding of how energy actually moves through our cities and vehicles. We're not just building what's on a simple infrastructure, physical infrastructure, it's a continuous learning energy network. In many ways, this is what a digital twin should become. Not just software sitting on top of hardware, but intelligence woven into physical systems itself. And our same learnings come from other companies and very autonomous, where digital twins are such a critical aspect when you think of autonomous technologies running under different conditions, where it's impossible to probably create a solution for each one, and digital twins helping not just accelerate development, but they also enable you to sort of learn in real time and adapt to new growing systems. Now, why does all of this matter for us in India? Well, perhaps for the first time in the automotive history, India has an opportunity not just to adopt global technologies, but to shape them. India is one of the world's leading mobility markets, the world's third largest two-wheeler market, right? Largest three-wheeler market, and amongst the largest commercial vehicle markets. But perhaps more importantly, we're one of the world's most demanding markets. Indian customers demand affordability, reliability, performance, and value in every single day. And that makes India an extraordinary laboratory for innovation, right? If we build intelligent mobility solutions that will succeed here, they can succeed across Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America, and other parts of the world. Scale is no longer just a manufacturing advantage, it's a learning advantage. Every connected vehicle generates knowledge. Every kilometer traveled improves the future decisions. Every battery charge or swap allows you to make a smarter network. That learning becomes intellectual property, and intellectual property becomes global competitiveness. So with this, Energy is becoming more intelligent. Mobility and energy can no longer be viewed as separate industries. The battery is no longer a simple source of storage energy, it's becoming a computing platform. Every charge cycle, every discharge, every temperature variation, every drive cycle pattern, every environmental condition tells another story. Through AI and digital twins, that story becomes actionable. We can predict battery degradation. We can improve our safety. We can extend useful life. We can optimize charging behavior. We can support second life application. We can balance renewable energy systems and strengthen the grid resilience by really making the system, on a bi-direction level. The objective is no longer about storing energy. It's orchestrating energy intelligently. With this, we're also moving from data to decisions, right? The mobility industry has spent decades connecting assets. So, online assets, OTAs, all of this is now of the past. The next decade will be making these systems really intelligent for us. Connectivity gives us visibility, AI will give us the understanding, and digital twins will give us the foresight. Instead of asking what happened yesterday, we begin to ask what is likely to happen tomorrow, and eventually what should happen next. We often talk about vehicles becoming autonomous. I think that's only part of the story. Eventually, mobility itself will become autonomous. Cities will know where energy is required before demand peaks. Fleets will know which vehicles require maintenance before notice of problems. Batteries will know how to maximize their own life. Infrastructure will continuously adapt based on traffic, weather, renewable generation, and energy demand. The intelligence will not just sit on one vehicle, it will emerge from the entire ecosystem. And that's where true power of digital twins lies, not in creating digital replicas, but in enabling entire mobility systems to continuously learn, predict, and improve. And that's why mobility companies are becoming software companies, energy companies are becoming platform companies, technology companies are entering transportation, and transportation companies are becoming intelligent companies. There's a change in how we think through this, in building an intelligent mobility ecosystem, because no single company can build the future alone. Digital twins become exponentially more valuable as more participants contribute data, intelligence, and innovation. The future will not belong to isolated champions, but to collaborative intelligence. Because networks learn faster than individuals, platforms innovate faster than products, and ecosystems create value that no single organization can create on its own. Every generation of engineers has one defining challenge. Previous generations learned how to build stronger machines. Our generation has the option to build systems that learn, predict, improve themselves every day. Engineering no longer ends when a product leaves the factory. Every kilometer traveled, every battery charged or swapped, every journey made becomes another lesson for how we can improve the entire ecosystem. The next mobility revolution will not be defined by the vehicles we build, but will be defined by the intelligence we create around them as we go forward, right? Success will no longer be determined by how well we build these machines. It'll be determined how well we orchestrate energy, infrastructure, software, intelligence, and services into a seamless customer experience. The digital twin is not the destination, it's the operating system of intelligent mobility ecosystem of the future, right? It's great to be here today. I think 3 days of industry and academia coming together to figure out these solutions that can help India lead is really encouraging, and really wish all of the participants in this in a way that we can collaborate together to really make India lead in this journey, and wish you guys all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Your journey continues to inspire us to push the boundaries of clean, sustainable, and smart mobility. So many takeaways from your address today. Mobility and energy are not two different industries. And you spoke about the next decade, how digital twins would give us the foresight. You also spoke about how not just vehicles, but mobility as such would become autonomous. And I think there was a surreal moment with Professor Ramakrishna also agreeing on a couple of things. You probably stole words from his mouth there. But personally, though, I think when you said the future doesn't arrive all at once, but you also said transitions happen all of a sudden, so I'm going to talk to you later about it. Thank you, sir. I'd like to now introduce our esteemed Dean, Professor Manu Santanam, for having come today. He's been a pillar of support in fostering innovation, driving high-impact industrial collaborations, and shaping the research landscape here at IIT Madras. His leadership continues to empower labs like MInT to bridge the gap between academic excellence and real-world engineering solutions. So we welcome you to the stage. We'll now move to the section of signing MOUs, the most awaited. Let's welcome with a huge round of applause Professor Geeta Krishnan from the Department of Data Science at IIT Madras to sign the new MOUs along with the Dean, and recognize the new and recent initiatives since the last summit. His deep expertise in data analytics and transit modeling has been foundational to the research ecosystem here, and his efforts in anchoring today's vision alongside the MInT Lab team is highly appreciated. Thank you, sir, for your invaluable contribution in making this summit a reality today. We will go over to the signing of the MOUs.
Just first. Kumta sign this. Okay. Please come.
So Geeta, you have the mic.
How do we turn this on?
I think we can speak loud.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So thank you all, for coming over here. We have a few MOUs that we're going to sign today. Okay, maybe I'll go up to the stage. Okay, great. Yeah. So we have a few MOUs that we'll be signing today. So I think the one with Kumta has been in the talks for some time, and we are very, very happy to be signing it today. Kumta has been leading transportation initiatives in Chennai, and Kumta is actually, an exemplar for how mobility can be, we can have an overarching government department dealing with all aspects of mobility in a single city. So Kumta is actually showing how it can be done, right? So,
Can you expand Kumta?
yeah, Chennai Unified Metropolitan Transport Authority, right? So the government actually said, we need to set up UMTAs in every city, and Chennai was the first to set it up. Not just set it up, but operationalize it, right? And of course, every organization needs a leader, and in Jaikumar sir, we had the leader, right? He came on board, and he's so unassuming, right? The way he conducts meetings, he gets everybody together, which is very much essential. When you have, MTCs, Metro, they all are big organizations in their own right, but to get them all together and work together needs a great skill, right? So that's what Jaikumar sir has brought to Kumta. And the way he achieved that was amazing. He brought people from each of these organizations to be part of Kumta, right? So that was a great masterstroke that he came up with. And Kumta has been growing. I've been associated with Kumta. I've been seeing the growth of Kumta, right? Poonam ma'am is also here, and we've sat in many committees, picking people. We've sent some of our own to join Kumta as well. Abhirami is here. So it's, I can't say how thrilled I am about this MOU. I'm very confident that we'll deliver on this digital twin, sir. We had a conversation last week, and they're having so many requests from the field, right? See, once you have an organization like Kumta, everybody wants to make use of them, right? And so they're getting requests from across the city in solving local problems related to mobility, and we hope to play a small part in what Kumta is delivering as well. So I can't, you can see how excited I am, right? So Kumta, it's been a dream, and it's great to sign the MOU with Kumta today. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
So the excitement was palpable because Professor Geeta Krishnan said Kumta only 20 times in 2 minutes. 20 times. A fabulous leader is somebody who just doesn't come alone. He's come with more people. And we also have 2 more people joining over the next 2 days from KUMTA here as well, right? That's great. Yes, so I'm over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor. So KUMTA, I think everybody knows, and many of you may be knowing KUMTA. In the past 4 years, we are in the Chennai metropolitan area, integrating all the mobility-related departments. It's a very tough task. Coordination is a tough task in government working, because if you have a regular department, you have a power center and you have a verticals. So coordination initial period is very, very tough. And so we are slowly from brick to brick, we started, and IIT, Professor Geeta Krishnan is our first contact, and Professor Ramakrishnan is there, and Professor Aswin and Karthik. All we are, actually they are associated with the KUMTA in various studies. We have done a 25 years master plan. Digital twin, Digital Chennai project, it is under DPR stage, KPMG is doing. It is an ideal time we are signing this MOU, so that this AI-enabled systems, mobility relay interventions, we can make use of it for the city. It is not only the, so digital twin, in my opinion, this is a need of the hour, and within the department also I used to say, okay, this is only a tip of the iceberg. The main thing is how best we are updating the system, because every department is a very old legacy departments in Tamil Nadu government. If we say water board or highways or corporation or Tangetco, all departments have to update the data, and so there is a lot of things has to go on, underlying works. And then a lot of intelligent transport systems, trials are going on, some projects are going on. So we will associate with everybody. And thanks to IIT Madras for giving the opportunity. I thank Dean for having come over here and signed MOU with us. Thank you all. We'll work together to see Chennai's mobility pattern is a safe, sustainable one. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So our second MOU for today is with a very young fledgling startup, right? URCabs. So when we talk about mobility, many times we tend to focus on metro cities, right? But there is so much happening in the tier 2 cities of our country, right? And unfortunately, they don't have quite the kind of capabilities and expertise that some of the big cities have, right? In fact, another thing about KUMTA is mentoring many of these cities as well, right? KUMTA is not only doing it for Chennai, they're doing it for other cities in Tamil Nadu, right? Again, something that I appreciate, in the leadership of Jaikumar sir. So, URCabs is working on last mile mobility in our tier 2 cities, right? So we have the CEO of URCabs, Mr. Maria Anthony, right? I welcome him onto the stage as well. Yeah. And please come, sir. Yeah. So he's somebody who's got 20 plus years of experience, right, in last mile mobility. Even before the term last mile mobility came, he was working on last mile mobility, right? Some of us who are from Chennai, those days you remember Fast Track, right? So he was the technology brain behind Fast Track, right? And with that experience, so in his new avatar, he started URCabs. They are out and out electric, right? And they are about providing employment for local people and women, right? So a significant number of people trained by URCabs are women drivers, right? So we had a conversation, and immediately, there was so much of alignment in the vision of MInT and what URCabs is looking to do. And I proposed to him, maybe we should sign an MOU. And I think in that meeting itself, he said, yes, let's sign the MOU, right? So, very, very happy to have URCabs here and proud to be, associated with a young startup. Recently, they got support from the Tamil Nadu government as well, right? So, it's a great initiative that you've taken, sir, and we are very keen to see where our partnership will take us. Thank you so much. Yeah, I request Dean sir and Maria Anthony to sign the MOU and exchange the MOU. So I request Maria Anthony to say a few words.
Vanakkam, good evening. It's really great moment for me to come and do a memorandum with IIT Madras, one of the prestigious institute in the country. Having started my career as a software engineer, I always wanted to get into business. That is how I got into fast track when I was working for Bank of New York. Throughout my career, I was working for banks, but my interest was always into business, and wherein I can utilize my technology skills to give some meaningful output. That is how I decided to leave my full-time job and to get into fast track as a technology as a CTO. Then later I decided to have my own firm, wherein it can do wonders in tier 2 and tier 3 cities where the gap was huge. Every firm, every big firms were concentrating only on the metros or tier 1 cities, but I could, since I was associated with the fast track, it is me who took fast track down south across about 30 cities in South India. So I could see a great potential in tier 2 and tier 3, and lot of inconvenience. So it is not all about making money, it is all about solving the problem. So I just wanted to get into this agenda wherein I could solve some problems, and rightly I chose after the arrival of electric vehicles, I chose to get into electric mobility. And as Professor Geeta Krishnan said, we always wanted to ensure that there is an inclusiveness in employment. So as Professor Geeta Krishnan said, we wanted to ensure that equal importance is given to every gender. And recently we have onboarded a transgender, and we have now we have got a bunch of 10 transgender, those who are being trained to become auto drivers. So we just wanted to associate with them, IIT Madras or MInT, in such a way that whatever the idea that we do have shall be validated, or if there is anything that can be a common portal, we can get into a collaborative initiatives, so that as an organization we will also get benefited. We can also give our experience, so that everybody else gets benefit out of it. So again, thank you so much for IIT Madras particularly no, the MInT team for having chosen or for having shown interest to work with URCAPS. Looking forward to collaborate to the extent possible from my side. Thank you.
So, yeah, the third MOU for the day is with WRI, World Resources Institute, India. So, I've had the fortune of associating with them for over a decade now, right? And some of the organizations like WRI, ITTP, I think they've done fantastic work in terms of bringing capacity building to a lot of the metropolitan organizations, right, in the country. So, I remember talking to Pawan, who had visited us, I think in 2017 or 2018, right? And so he had said, oh, we should do something about data, right? So I think back then, people weren't really talking much about data as such, right? So, but Pawan was talking about it, and over the last couple of years, they have built a fantastic portal called the Transport Analytics Hub, right? And so when Pawan and I were having a conversation, it was natural, right, for us to sign an MOU and work together, right? Because that's something that we are focusing on at MInT as well. And WRI has experience not just in India, but across the globe in terms of using data and solving real-world mobility problems. So with that initial thought, we said, let's go ahead and sign this MOU. The good news is we don't have to sign the MOU. MOU is already digitally signed. We'll just have the exchange of the MOU today. So we have, Avinash from WRI here. I request him to come on stage and, exchange the MOU with our Dean, Manu.
I'd like to check if Shri Pavan Mulukotla is online virtually, and if he'd like to share any words just after the signing.
Good evening, everyone. It's always good to be back in campus. I'm feeling really good and a privilege to come back to this campus. I'm not from an IIT Madras, but I am from the IIT system. I'm a pass out from IIT Kanpur, so it's always good to be back into your system. In terms of this MOU, as Professor Grita Krishnan mentioned, this is an initiative which we are calling it as a shift transport. So this is a collaborative initiative for better decision making through data-driven and evidence-based approach. Based on our experience and learnings over the years, what we have observed there are two types of things happening. We keep on talking about data-driven decision making, evidence-based decision making. We do a lot of discussions, echo chamber talks, but somehow eventually what's happening on ground, those are not correlated. Just to give you an example, we all understand like why public transport is important, why prioritizing the buses are important, but we have decisions on ground. Say, for example, the dismantling of BRTS in Indore, the system which was doing really good, catering to almost 70,000 passengers every day. In terms of all the indicators, it was performing really good. But the decision that happened is the dismantling of it. It's really unfortunate, but at the same time, with the positive, how to change this scenario. So this is where this initiative comes in. It basically has three components. First one is the product that Professor Geeta Krishnan talked about, which is the Transport Analytics Hub, where the simple idea is how can we demystify or simplify the complexities around it. How can we make this analytics more accessible in terms of simple visualization, intuitive visualization, and take it to more and more people. The second part of this is the people. Product, people, and partnership. In people, our objective is how can we expose different types of stakeholders, whether it is policymakers, decision makers, academicians, researchers, practitioners, or community people, where they can come inside a single roof, look into what the data is talking about. I'm not sure if how many of you are aware of the convenings that we did in last couple of years. Namaste in Bangalore, I think Sir was part of it. And then again, this year we did it in Ahmedabad. So the entire experience is what about mobility, how my city moves. If today I ask people, this would become a really a complex question to answer, like how my city moves, but this is such a basic stuff. Lot of decision, lot of investments are happening in the city, but unfortunately we are not aware of like how, in a simple word terms, my city is moving. So how to bring all the people together in terms of understanding like what needs to be done, and then collaboratively or collectively sort of creating the solutions, like how to go ahead about it. And the third part of it is product, people, and partnership. So the partnership is where the local actions will happen on ground. So how can we create or empower the ecosystem using the data so that they can take decisions or they can ensure the correct decisions happen on ground. So this is the Shift Transport Initiative in a nutshell. I'm feeling really honored to sign this MOU and looking forward for some really good things to happen. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's coming back to IIT, so I have to come. This is my first visit to this campus.
Oh, welcome, welcome. I think you're going to be here for one more day. So thanks for coming in early, Avinash. Really appreciate that for the signing of the MOU. Right. So the next MOU with Virya is, okay. And maybe Virya we have, right? So Sabha, if you could come up, and the next MOU is with Virya, right? Already signed, so it's just going to be an exchange of the MOU, right? So of course we heard Chetan Mani sir earlier, right? And it was inspirational to actually visit their office in Bangalore last month or 2 months back, right? And since then we've made a lot of progress, right? Before even signing the MOU, Sabha has been very active, and he said, let's get started with work. And so we've been having multiple discussions. So we are very, very happy to have this MOU. The focus is on autonomous vehicles, right? And, maybe Ramki would like to announce this, but we're going to, Ramki, you want to share about the autonomous vehicle on campus?
What we are trying to do is how do we kind of change the transportation mode inside the campus to an autonomous kind of vehicle system, right? They're on demand, as well as how do we make it efficient for moving people from point A to point B, right? And most importantly, out of that exercise, what we hope to get is the understanding of how autonomous technologies can be deployed. And then can we make an open source stack that is kind of tuned to various factors, including the fact that we have deer and monkeys and nature around us here, and then have that become a stack that can be used for similar campuses around the world, actually, right? And then what would be the sensor set that is unique and can be affordable and can be localized and available in India, so that we could use that, right? So we are not dependent on a sensor set that comes from outside the country. So we have to explore all of those areas. So that's the kind of focus of the project. It's a tall order, but of course we have leading experts like Sabha there to helping us, right? Yeah.
Maybe
Who wants to share?
Exchange the MOU and then you can share.
Okay, perfect.
Well, good evening, everyone. Firstly, it's an honor. It's absolutely an honor to be here. So thank you for the opportunity. And I think we all heard Chetan speak earlier today, right? Quite interesting times. And I'll just speak for like 10 seconds about who we are, what we do, because I represent a part of the MINT group, a company called Viri Autonomous, and we've been doing our part in pioneering a lot of the aspects of autonomous mobility in India. We did India's first autonomous buggy at Bangalore airport, moved about 14,000 people, zero safety incidents, and learned a lot, right? But that also opened up a lot in detail about what India needs versus what, is typically looked upon as autonomy in the world, right? I was also fortunate in the past to see the whole peak of autonomous mobility startups, the 2016 to 2020 phase where every other startup in the Bay Area was all about, we'll deliver pizzas, fully autonomous and whatnot, and then reality hitting it, and today we're seeing what's staying versus what's really folded, right? And I think the fundamental reason why we're here and what we're really excited about is we can do all of this here, right here in India, right? And we can do it in a manner where we can leapfrog every aspect of what, we can take all these amazing learnings. I mean, if you look at it at the macro level, there's so much learning that the world has had in autonomous mobility in the last 10 years. And we don't have to go repeat all of those mistakes. And with the wave that Professor Ramki was talking about with AI, how do we look at this differently? And that's going to be a big part of what we'll spend time on. So foundational models for autonomous driving is a part of where we would be collaborating. And of course, the dream of all vehicles on campus, whether it's at IIT Madras today, and then of course, anywhere should be running something that we design, develop, and build here in India. So pretty excited to be here. And as the MINT group and as Viri Autonomous, we're fully committed to being a part of this initiative. So thank you again for the opportunity and looking forward to everything that we can do together.
Thank you so much, Sabha. I think, we're really excited, right, to see these autonomous vehicles on campus run very soon, right? So we'll get to hop on and hop off one of these, right? Maybe end of this year or early next year, right? So that's the plan. Ambitious, but we'll work towards that. So we had one more MOU that we are looking to sign, but and our partner NISA. They are based out of Mumbai, and I think Mumbai is submerged, right? It's doing its annual ritual, right? Taking the dip, right? So, and therefore, they've not been able to join us today. But I just want to place on record that we're signing an MOU with NISA. NISA is, of course, providing cloud services for all the AI companies in the country, right? They've emerged as a leader in the space, right, and internationally as well. So when we talk about all these foundation models, and right, we need compute, and we need them urgently, right? Amit keeps asking me, do you have a GPU to run something? So I need to answer people like Amit who are very impatient, who want the the compute on demand, right? So that's something that we hope to achieve in this partnership with NISA, right? Venkat sir has already been working with the team, and we've already deployed some models in their cloud, right? It's great to partner with them, and I think together we'll be developing all these fantastic models on their cloud platform, right? So those are the MOUs for today. I thank each one of you, right, for joining hands with MInT, and I think over the next 12 months we'll have a lot of things to co-create, and when we come back for the 4th summit, I think we'll come and share some of the success stories of these MOUs, right? So that's the goal, right? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to request Dean Manu Santanam sir to share a few words.
You'll be called back on. Thank you. Indeed, a pleasure to be here. And if it's not been done already, I'd like to welcome you all once again to IIT Madras. Indeed, a pleasure to host you all here, and especially those of you who are first-timers to our campus. Make sure that you enjoy the natural beauty that we have here. It's indeed one of the most remarkable college campuses that you'll see anywhere in the world, and we pride ourselves to be to have this wonderful campus given to us, and we are really enjoying the benefits of being here. And one of the benefits, obviously, is that you also get researchers who have good time to put their minds to interesting problem and then create wonderful initiatives such as MInT. Although Geeta Krishnan was part of our department earlier, civil engineering, we lost him to the data science and artificial intelligence department. But I'm very happy that he continues to work on transportation-related issues. That is something which is close to his heart, and I'm sure that he's not going to leave that anytime soon. Sustainable mobility is very much part of what we are doing at IIT Madras in a very big way. There's a lot of groups. I think clearly the chief guest, Mr. Chetan, had clearly pointed out that the boundaries between different realms are actually dimming. Everybody is getting together. Each problem has multiple facets which many people can solve together. And in the sustainable mobility ecosystem, of course, we also have the aspect of the next generation energy. Where is it going to come from to actually fuel these vehicles? So there's a lot of work going on in hydrogen, in batteries, and we also have a center for zero emission trucking just to take the things to the next level. So here, of course, some efforts like MInT really assume a large importance, because not only can they work on reliable, intelligent data collected from cities, but I think their work can also pave the way to making a lot more sense out of how to plan infrastructure around the country, not just in urban areas, but probably also in complicated locations like mines, for instance, because there a lot of logistical operations also happen in large mines, and that's where our center of excellence on zero emission trucking can probably also collaborate with the work that is being done at MInT. What has been exciting about this journey with MInT is that there has been a lot of initiative to pass on the information to startups. There's been startups that have actually come out of this research group, and also some more which are getting mentored currently. I think that's a very key aspect that any IIT Madras Research Center is proud to be associated with, because ultimately a lot of the new technologies are going to be driven by startups, and we hope that this initiative will create more and more startups that will go out into the industry and actually translate these technologies to actual implementation. The other aspect is working with government agencies, because whatever you do, you also have to ensure that you work with the authorities to ensure that they're able to put together the measures in place to make sure that your technologies really get to the final end user. And mobility and transportation being such an important part of any city, any region, it's very important to connect with the authorities. So I'm very happy to see that CUMTA has come on board to really partner with the research that is being done at MInT, and I'm sure that with the kind of data they're able to collect through their various studies, it's going to really make Chennai transportation a lot more sustainable, and pave the way for probably other cities to take on the kind of model that is being shown here in this collaboration. IIT Madras really prides itself in its ability to collaborate with industry and translate high-end research to something which is there on the field. And this is another initiative in the same direction. I believe there's a lot of success which is going to be met with in the future with the kind of initiatives that are being taken by MInT. I wish this group a lot of success, and I thank Professor Geeta Krishnan for giving me the opportunity to come here and talk in front of you. Also, a pleasure to see some of my old students coming back to IIT Madras, and I welcome them too. Okay, bye. See you.
Thank you, sir. It's been an exciting inaugural evening with many important milestones reached. I'd like to call upon Professor Geeta Krishnan to render the vote of thanks for the inaugural section, which is getting over now. We will be moving to the invited tech talk session, but before that, vote of thanks from sir.
Thank you so much. There are so many people to thank. We will definitely do that again. But I just wanted to briefly, thank our chief guest for the day, Sri Chetan Maini. I think, yeah. It's always an inspiration, right, to hear him, and also, ever since we looked at the first Reva car, right? It's I've always wanted, to ride one. I haven't yet had the chance, maybe, right? But I hope I'll get to ride it soon. But it was always an inspiration, right? What he did back then, okay. doing it all indigenously, right? 25 years back. It was not an easy task, right? It was great to have him here. And, we've been talking to people and we've been looking to organize this. In fact, to Chetan Saab, we actually went quite late, right, with our request. We had told him earlier, but the actual final dates and the request was quite late. And in a short time, right, he accepted. Of course, Sabha played a role, and Naveen Chopra ji also played a role, right, in bringing him here, right. So I was just sharing with Ramki earlier that on his LinkedIn post, right, he had mentioned 4 words for future of mobility, right? Connected, shared, autonomous, electric and autonomous, right? And so these 4 words is what we have been speaking about for the last 4 years as well. When we had the Institute of Eminence proposal for Center of Excellence, we had said we are going to focus on connected, autonomous, shared, electric, case mobility is what we had pitched. And it was, such an inspiration to see the same words he had used in his LinkedIn bio, right? And so that means we are in the right direction. And to have him join us today and give this talk, true inspiration, sir. I'm not sure if he's still online, but yeah, this is being recorded. I just want to place this on record that, we are very grateful to him. So we are, of course, grateful to IIT Madras, Professor Manu, and we had forgotten to inform him ahead of time. Right, and again, he was kind enough to accept at a short notice and be here. And all the MOUs, that we signed today, I think we were having the MOUs being exchanged back and forth till today afternoon, and to get it all ready, we thank all our MOU partners, right, for making it happen. Thank Professor Ramki for his leadership, right. He brings a very unique style of leadership. He brings the team together, right, makes them go achieve things, right. So it's great to have him, especially the team building exercise that we had here, right. So we're grateful to him. And of course, the entire team. It'll take quite a bit of time to name all of them, right. And I don't want to risk missing out anybody. I just want to say the MInT team, right. So you know who you are, right. You've been working quite a bit for this, right. But this is just the beginning, right. The next 2 days is going to be very exciting. We're going to have a lot of technical sessions, right? And in fact, the technical sessions get started today. We have our 2 speakers today. Both of them happen to be our alum, right? They're coming back to campus. They're both professors in leading universities in the US. We'll get to hear from them, right? And it was just a coincidence both of them are here today to be here in person, right? Our technical talks in the previous years were delivered online, right? From the US and from other countries, they were all online, but it is a real pleasure to have both of you with us today, Professor Shiva Srinivasan, Professor Lavanya Marla, right? I've known both of them for about 2 decades now, and in the academic environment, it's a small world, and it's a long journey that we all do together, right? And Shiva was a senior at Texas Austin when I joined, and I've always looked up to him, right? The kind of discipline he has, I wish I had even 10% of that, but right, amazing, to have him. And of course, Lavanya from did a PhD at MIT with Cynthia, and she is actually motivated me to work on the 108 project here in Tamil Nadu, and we've done some wonderful work there, right? So great to have her back as well. So thank you for taking your time today, being with us, right? I also thank Gopi, who's been mentoring us from the background, right? Telling us certain important things in our board meetings and guiding us where we have to be there, right? And of course, the entire core group. Ravi is of course here, but we have a core group, Dr. Rama, Dr. Ajay, Dr. Gumala, right? All of them, they've been really keeping MInT together and giving us direction, right? So without all of their support, we won't be where we are today, right? So I want to thank all of them, right, for making this 3rd MInT Summit happen, right? And truly excited to see where we go over the next year. Thank you all so much. Thanks.
I think a good point in time to have a group photograph. Let's have the people, right here, sir. We've signed the MOUs. Let's have a group photograph with all of you together, with the Dean. Yeah. Yeah. So Avinash, Sabha Guru Subramaniam, Mr. Maria. Yeah. May we also have Professor Shiva and Professor Lavanya Marla on stage, yeah, for the group photograph. Apologies, I didn't identify you earlier, Professor Shiva. Yes.
Can we also request you to give this to Mr. All right.
So may we have you on stage, Sir Gopi and Mr. Ravichandran, sir. Both of you on stage will just join us for the group photograph. Thank you, sir. Hey. I know we sprung up last minute on you. Thanks for joining, Gopi. Sir, sorry. Yeah. Okay. We've got many bright minds in the audience, and we've got the right speakers lined up for you now. Two stellar invited talks lined up. Our first invited speaker joins us from the University of Florida. Please welcome Professor Shiva Srinivasan. He will be sharing his expertise on a highly critical theme, evaluating operational and safety impacts of transit automation using simulation models. Let's welcome him with a round of applause. Have you shared? I've sent it to Keith. Let's just give us 2 minutes to get started. We will share the slides. Professor Geeta. He sent some slides to you, sir. Slides are
mistaken for him, so absolutely no problem.
So maybe we'll swap the speakers because I'm not able to find the presentation that she has sent to me. We will do that shortly. So I request, Professor Lavanya Marla to maybe start off the technical sessions with her presentation. So Lavanya is a professor at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and she is somebody who works deeply in the theoretical OR space, right? And but she brings flavor of applications to different industries, including airline, emergency response, and a few more that she is now started working on, right? Very, very keen to hear her talk, and over to Lavanya. Yeah.
This is good. Something I have to switch on. Good evening, everyone, and it's really a pleasure and a joy and an honor to be back here to speak at IIT Madras, and with respect to, and thank you, Professor Geeta Krishnan and MInT, for giving me this opportunity. So today I wanted to talk about some of the ideas that are evolving in the transportation space and with respect to the applications that I've been working on. So I'll give you a snapshot of different things and touching upon the different themes that several of the speakers have spoken about today: data, AI, optimization and decision making. So I'll talk about these in the context of various applications. These applications need no introduction. Everybody has spoken about them today, whether it is gridlock in cities or in the airspace or what have you. We are seeing unprecedented demand, growth, but also at the same time, these challenges associated with these. So the pictures speak for themselves. What we've been developing over several decades are very sophisticated models, the field of operations research, transportation. They've been working on all of these, and problems have several interesting challenges, very large scale, non-linear type of costs associated with delays or service levels and so on. You have many different kinds of resources that you're trying to allocate across the system, and everything is connected to each other. So an impact and something changed in one part of the system really tends to impact things all across. And these are features of the system that we have been incorporating and optimizing and deciding for, but they take on novel aspects as we think about it in the context of data and AI and decision making. So there have been several different companies that I have worked with over the years in airline scheduling, in emergency medical services, in trucks and logistics and routing and cyber-physical systems. So all of these have some underlying thematic commonalities, like the ones I spoke about before.
But we'll also talk, among these I'll draw upon some certain applications to talk about what we are doing from the perspective of data and AI. So the first part I'll talk about is the 108 project that Geeta Krishnan referred to. Here we'll talk about predictive prescriptive analytics. And I want to highlight here one of the important features that happens in the Indian context. So we've worked on emergency services in the US and other countries, but I'll highlight a little bit what happens in India. So here is one snapshot of the data we had from Hyderabad. So this is where I got introduced to 108 and we started seeing what is happening across the city. So one of the first years where EMRI, GVK EMRI was started with 108, we started seeing what happened as the system was being introduced. Remember, India, before 108 was introduced, there was no centralized EMS provider, no centralized ambulances, so you could call Apollo or whichever other hospitals, and maybe their ambulances would come. Now this is your centralized ambulance provider, which is trying to actually unite these different things, provide services to people across the public, not really affiliated with a particular hospital, right? So there were interesting challenges that they faced. I won't get into all of those, but some of the important questions they asked was, we don't have a lot of resources, so how do we optimize using existing resources? So how much improvement is possible and how can we show that this is the best improvement? That's part of the work that we did with them. And so we looked at how to allocate ambulances in a better way, both for planning purposes, but also dynamically as the demand patterns change, what should you do? We talked about efficient performance assessment to say, are we doing the best possible or is there some gap there that can be achieved, right? So that's part of what we looked at. And we built some nice models. The interesting part I want to highlight is all of these models that we built are highly data-driven. So this started, I would say 15 plus years ago, this project. And in that time, data-driven modeling was one of those not yet well-known approaches. And we started looking at the call logs that EMRI was actually finding on the ground, started teasing out what were the phenomena that were happening. What were the travel times being experienced? What was the response time? Why were those times different across different times of day? How can they be incorporated into models, which again, did not happen across the board in different places in the world? You had to take into account that, say, on the roads, ambulances would face traffic, which in some other countries you don't. You just assume that the ambulance will be given way and you just get from point A to point B, which is not true in India at that time. So we're trying to capture all of this. How is the traffic? How do these systems start to interact? How can we capture that? So we actually started building those data-driven models that capture that. So we looked at how different calls, let's say this is one call, another call, and all of these, how do they actually interact with each other? How do we model the dependencies between different calls over the long term? What is the allocation of ambulances, let's say from some base 1 or base 2 or base 3? How do they actually influence the performance of the system overall? How can we model it using this data-driven approach? Simultaneously, the interesting part was, this is the things that we are trying to optimize for. How do you locate ambulances? How do you move them around through the day and so on? Simultaneously, we had to model how humans behave in the system. And we found that you can have your 108 system, but you can also have a competing ambulance that people call. When something is introduced new in the system, you have to understand that people are not going to adopt it right away. So this adoption process, which is unique to the system, was something else that we had to capture. So we had an idea of, when people call multiple ambulances, what is the chance that this particular system's ambulance may or may not be accepted by the patient? It's not just a matter of sending the ambulance, but acceptance. So we incorporated that. And then here's an algorithm, which I won't get into in detail, but how do we build all of that together? So we actually built a simulation optimization framework for all of those. And again, you can look at papers for that. But the idea is, how do you incorporate human behavior? How do you incorporate this data-driven nature of things and make these decisions and simultaneously show that this is possibly very close to the best you could possibly do? That is essentially what we come up with across the system. So, and we talked about compute. We found that this kind of approach actually is very highly tractable. You can run it very, very fast. And we started getting data from Chennai and started looking at the GPS traces of the ambulances and so on. I think Geeta Krishnan will tell you some more about that. Some of the fun on-the-ground experiences we had with that. I won't get into all of that at this moment. But we can actually capture this idea of human behavior. What happens when this idea of abandonment, humans accepting or not accepting the system, which is unique to India. How do we find that we serve better or not? So we found improvement across that despite the human behavior. But we were also able to characterize, how much does the human behavior give us positive or negative, and how do we actually, educate people? How should you do that in a way that it's actually understanding how much inefficiency exists in the system, and then start to address those inefficiencies. So there's education as to how should people be trained so that you don't lose much of the resources that you're allocating to something. So somebody else is not poorly affected. So we across all of these, we found that the current EMRI performance can be improved. Simultaneously, we can understand how much of the human behavior is actually affecting the overall system, and how and where we should educate people. For example, more in urban areas compared to rural areas and so on. So we found some insights that the company could use as they go forward. I'm going to touch upon another idea here on how do you do learning. So while that was one of the oldest projects that I'm talking about today, this is one of the newer ones. So here we are talking about aviation, but fundamentally it's about environments where there is very little information. We don't have the ability to sense fast. And the idea is that you may have physical sensors placed in certain environments and maybe not in certain other environments. But information moves very quickly. So unless you have either ubiquitous or continuous sensing, you're actually going to lose that information. And maybe we don't have the cost capabilities to do that. So we are looking at how do you think about these environments, and we ideally want near real-time information across roads or across in the airspace as well. So here we talk about, while we want near real-time information, we don't necessarily have the ability to sense it by placing physical sensors. This is what Google does. When you pick up your maps, open that and say, I want to go from A to B, you are a sensor for Google. And why does it do that despite having all sorts of measurements, add signals and so on? Because information expires very quickly. And that's the same that happens in the airspace. So we propose that actually, how do you allow and use aircraft themselves as sensors in the airspace? Similarly to how road vehicles are sensors, and Google uses that to update information for the next person who's going to travel from A to B. That same kind of idea, how do you incorporate, and the same ideas and algorithms we propose can be used road traffic or air traffic. And so with sparse sensing, or where information expires very quickly, we look at how do you sense at specific points with things like with things like specific sensors. So suppose I have weather balloons that can sense at specific points. If I have a budget for that, where should I sense and how often should I sense? If I have only vehicles which can travel across the network, whether they are aircraft or road vehicles or drones, where should they be? Which paths should they travel on from A to B in a way that they are sensing the most useful and most efficient parts of information? So here we are actually building on machine learning literature from multi-armed bandits and so on and so forth. We bring that more into the optimization space. How do you combine and bridge these different fields in a way that we understand where information is the most useful? So again, I'm going to jump across all the algorithmic part. We can actually say minimize the uncertainty, which means maximize information. That's our goal. How do you collect the most information possible that is not only useful for the current sensor, your current vehicle, but for the vehicles that are coming after that? And how often should it be sensed so that you have enough information to minimize overall costs or fuel or whichever thing you want to optimize for? And it turns out that we can come up with some nice, those networks are all combinatorial. But you can cleverly come up with some nice patterns as to how you can sense depending on how quickly information expires. So that is part of how the algorithm is designed. If the information expires quickly, you have to look at certain kinds of paths. If the information expires slowly, you can actually expand between from the common close to optimal paths to slightly away from the central paths so that you can collect more information. And you can actually show that this has a very high efficiency in terms of how that information is collected. So this is actually showing on the real world OD pairs in the national airspace in the US. Some aircraft are actually exploring and some aircraft are exploiting such information. And we can see that even if a small fraction of aircraft are collecting information, it actually gives improvement across the entire system. So every 4th aircraft is exploring in the left-hand side figure, every 12th aircraft is exploring in the right-hand side figure. That means they are actually going in paths where there is less information, deliberately deviating from paths that we think are optimal to collect information elsewhere. And that information is actually useful for not only them, but possibly everybody else. And that tells us that some even less frequent sampling actually gives us good amount of information so that the overall system benefits. So we find that across all of these, there's almost an average fuel savings of 5%, which is actually a very big improvement when you think about how much money is actually spent on fuel. For most of transportation applications, fuel is one of the biggest expenditures. So you can reduce up to 5%. And then we have some ideas on how to do airline pricing using deep learning. We look at passengers who are buying tickets and start to understand their behavior without actually characterizing the passengers. So we don't actually use their personal demographic information. We actually just see in that particular session they log in, what behavior are they exhibiting, which itineraries are they examining, and how we can actually look at an A/B testing approach to find out what is the request that the customer has, what is the customer thinking about, is it a leisure trip or a work trip. So we have some additional customer context. Use that to say there are multiple deep learning models and which model should be used at each time. So we have a meta learning model that routes between these different models to say which is learning better the customer behavior and their likelihood of purchasing something that I offer. And this we actually implemented at an airline in real time. We were able to understand what is the behavior and say that compared to what the airline was doing previously, which is human based, we were able to show that the AI approach, which also learns simultaneously as it is going forward, it keeps on learning, and you can put it in a loop and so on. And this is how it looks on the airline's web page. They have this whole system where somebody logs in, sees the flights, there's passengers, what else is offered, like ancillaries, etc. What do they add and why? At what price do they add it? So all of that is counted, and then we have our pricing algorithm which plugs into this entire system. And you can plug multiple two-stage pricing models, one-stage deep learning models. We've looked at many things called end-to-end learning versus two-stage learning, etc., etc. Again, I won't go into the algorithms. And we found that a 25% incremental revenue with respect to ancillaries could be achieved with a 17% increase in conversion. That means acceptance of the price that was offered. So again, AI provides a lot of benefits. Simultaneously, we're now looking at what if the human starts to understand that there's AI behind the scenes and starts to change their behavior or behaves erratically. How do you understand that? And how do you actually remove these outliers and therefore have a more robust kind of price offering? So that's part of what has been happening. And also, somewhat recently, we've been looking at ports across the US where there is multiple layers. We have transportation layer, cyber layer, power layer. In particular, we're interested in resilience for all of these systems, but particularly for cases like this where there can be either a malicious attack or a weather-based or a natural attack on the port. How do we think about this? And how how do we prioritize investments to respond to hazards? If there is an event, which we call the boom event, what happens before, what happens at the time, how to find the right mitigation strategies, and how to evaluate the response and recovery strategies. Again, we do this using simulation and optimization models, which can be, again, developed into a digital twin type of approach. These are very large optimization models. We can literally be able to give decisions at the level of every container in the system. Thousands, tens of thousands of containers sitting in a large port. Every one, how should they be individually routed in the case of a hazard or an emergency or in a case of an attack. And that we're able to give it at that level of granularity, simulate it, and then go back and say, is that the right thing? So we can build this entire feedback loop, which can benefit the decision maker at the port. And it can tell you different things, what kind of baseline versus economic impacts. If you didn't do anything or did something naive versus if we did more informed decision-making approach, which stakeholders are affected more or less, which kind of commodities in the port, whether the perishables or apparel or other less perishables are affected, what kind of plans should you have, and so on and so forth. So I'll just stop there. This is just a snapshot of different things. Happy to talk about any of them in detail with those who are interested. Yes, question.
Switch off has happened by a human or by the American system developed? That's my first question to you. Since you have worked in Airbus for a long time, it would be wise to have a sensor there so that whether the switch off of the fuel from to the engine that has happened or by the co-pilot or by system automatically designed by the Americans. That's what. Hope my question is clear.
Yeah.
Since you have worked for a lot of years on airline side, so how the AI performance will play a major role if correct algorithm is implemented?
Correct. That's a really important and timely question as well. What airlines currently do is more of a time-based maintenance approach. That means every n number of hours, let's say for certain functionalities, they look at every 72 hours, they look at is everything functioning, right? But they are moving, and this is partly motivated by these kind of events, small faults that occur, things that you don't detect upfront except when you get to that 72-hour mark or whichever time mark, what is called a continuous maintenance approach. So you have sensing, you have other things going on, not every 72 hours, but more on a continuous basis, so that it is not when I'm going to go and check in at every, like a checkup, like a doctor checkup, I go in every few days or few months for that. You actually do it based on when something is expected. So more of a predictive plus continuous maintenance system. So that is where, yes, absolutely, because you are going to do more sensing, but also at the same time you're going to do more predictions. That means you're going to say which is the system that I want to test at what times and why. So that is going to happen on a rolling continuous basis as opposed to only when some flag happens, right? So you're going to do more proactive sensing as opposed to reactive sensing. Yeah, that's going to change things quite a bit.
Pricing?
You can, yes. That's called personalized pricing, or customized pricing, and this is where things are moving to. So you can look at any website that you log into, like booking.com or ClearTrip or all of these. They can give you slightly different prices. And if you log in with your cookies on under your profile, it can give you a different price than if you do it on a private browser without cookies, without logging in.
So based on my behavior,
yes,
it can force me to buy a expensive ticket if I'm a quick,
yes.
tap the tab and book the ticket.
Yes.
Huh? Oh my God.
So that is where passengers are also gaming the system, right? So it becomes a two-way issue. And actually that is very interesting because, they want to do both things. So essentially who needs what, give them the ideal offer based on their willingness to pay.
Yeah.
So we are not just estimating this person and try to overprice them. But this person has a need for a certain thing and they might be willing to pay this price, which might be, say, 10 rupees more on certain things, right? So, there is also, the nice thing is there's a check on how much range you're changing that price. So it's not going to be arbitrary anything. But if you look at individuals and at the same time, there's also a reduction in price. It's not just going to be increases. It's going to be both. And across the board, you can see that both benefits occur both to passengers and the airlines. So when you sum it all in aggregate, it's not going to be an individual trip, but an aggregate.
But I suppose at the end of it, if you are going to adopt that, it will be in order to increase the revenue rather than decrease the revenue. So the goal is that, right?
It's going to be, yes, but it's going to be a sweet spot because if you constantly look at increasing the revenue, passengers will say, I'm not going to get that, right? I'm going to go to the competitor. So everybody is going to say, what is the right amount? So it's both. It's always the price and, the market kind of thing will play out here as well.
So same thing can be applied across all digital transaction.
Correct. I mean, these are all going to be enabled by blockchain. So eventually, digital transactions will be the medium through which they occur.
Okay.
So it's not going to be regular payments, but it'll all be on a blockchain. Some of the history will be there. How do you get credit for a certain thing will be on blockchain.
Okay. Thank you.
Every individual becomes a registrant of the blockchain.
If you want, but you can choose.
No, I'm sorry. I don't want to be a vector in the database, right?
Agreed.
So how do I opt out?
So
Thank you.
So you can actually do that, and you can say that I want every session of an individual to be treated as without looking at history, to be treated as an individual transaction. And still, you can look at it like, the personalization can happen at a transaction level as opposed to the individual level. That means not looking at your history. And you can opt for that. So, for example, what we showed was actually GDPR compliant. So, Europe does not allow us or the airlines to say you should capture all of these. So, privacy has to be taken into account. So, we showed them that this is GDPR compliant. So, without taking your transaction history into account.
You showed about cybersecurity layer, right? Can you shed some light on that?
The ports, yeah. So, we actually were looking at what if there's a malicious attack on ports are being now automated quite a bit, right? Like you can think about things like the container movements, the gates at ports, the straddles that pick up big containers from the ships to bring them to the ground. So these are all automated now. What if one of them is attacked or fails? That was the question that we asked, And what if it blocks a certain part of the port from functioning how it's supposed to?
So this will be simulated and checked. What are the risk factors?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
So, staying on the sports thing, right? Did you have data from some port to do this?
Yes.
And so, because ports are very protective about the data, right? So I was wondering how you managed.
We did get data from a port who I can't name right now. But yes, so they gave us about a couple of months of their transaction data, like when do the vessels come in, what are the kind of distribution of the kind of commodities that are moved around on that vessel, what is their costs, right? What time should each of those commodities be delivered? So, for example, the vessels may be carrying fuel, they may be carrying fruits and vegetables, they might be carrying apparel, they might be carrying cars, they might be carrying watches, all sorts of things. Everything has a different delivery date at the destination. So in the supply chain, food needs to get out quickly or fuel needs to get out quickly, but maybe some others like cars not as quickly. So all of those are taken into account, and which is going to actually impose more cost on the system, and if it doesn't get out, or which is actually going to be completely wasted if it doesn't leave the vessel or the port. So that is taken into account, and the economic costs are computed that way. So what is the cost of the delays of any type of commodity, right? Given a certain disruption. So under different scenarios, what happens, and then how do you optimize for that? So that's why the individual container level optimization became important. It's a massive optimization problem. But you can do some very nice algorithms and other things to solve it very quickly as well. So that means in near real time, as the simulation tells us, oh, this is actually going to result in a delay there, we can say, oh, we can anticipate that and quickly re-optimize and send another solution. So that's what you can do with this.
Getting real-time data is very difficult from anybody, and something
this is
like
not
this
real time.
It may not be real-time, even archived data, but then you have to give back something to that entity, or is it an altruistic? Because if you gave back to that port something, we at MInT can learn, because we are constantly looking at how to get data, which can then be processed and given back to them, or what can we promise them.
Correct, yes. And that is part of what we wanted to show them. Like, for example, what kind of scenarios should they prioritize planning for? So if they have certain things that bother them, that this is the kind of thing that could be a disruption, like there could just be a spill, oil tanker spill, and that blocks off a road. And that's, something that you cannot control, and it's not malicious. Or there could actually be a malicious attack, like a cyber attack on a certain system of the port. Each of those has to be dealt with differently. So what is the kind of solutions, under different scenarios? And if you had a certain amount to invest, where would you invest that? So those kind of questions can be answered. Yeah.
So
in very data sparse environment, how do you ensure that you don't make suboptimal decisions? For example, in India especially, you might have suppose you have broken traffic sensors or something like that. And how do you account for data blindness, I guess, is my question.
Yeah. That is where we came up with that idea of using the vehicles themselves as sensors, right? In the airspace, you don't have sensors that you can place anywhere. Similarly, in cases where in India, or even on the roads in general, now you have things like crowdsourcing of information and so on. But that's all coming from the vehicles that are traveling. So how do you use that information upfront so that you're getting more near real time? And how do you incentivize someone to give you that information? It's not enough that somebody is traveling and you're collecting it, right? But you could actually tell somebody, hey, I want you to travel along the slightly longer route, but I will pay you 50 rupees extra for doing that to collect information for us.
So my question is not about longer routes, but if there are delivery trucks going into an area of data blindness, how would you deal with optimization law,
So that is where, that is exactly where this learning plus optimization becomes important. That means we are actually saying we don't have data. We are telling the vehicles that are making routing decisions that, hey, this is where we have less data. Here are two options. One is, based on lack of data, you can build what is called a robust route. So assuming that, let's say, worst case on certain routes and saying, this is what you'll experience, do you want to do that? Or we can say, well, here there is a data gap. Are you willing to travel along that in order to collect data, not only for yourself, but the overall system? And if you can think about it, if there is let's say there is a driver who has, some extra time, they believe that most likely they can deliver everything today. And they can say, yeah, I'm going to actually take a little bit of a detour, and most likely I can collect information and get some incentive in return. So we want to balance that out. When there is information gaps, we want to say, how can we collect that information? Either by placing moving sensors like vehicles and incentivizing them appropriately. Not just by individual, we cannot sense everywhere, everything by placing a sensor, but by this people who are going to use the system anyway, the agents that are already going to use the system, how do you get information through them?
And in which geographies have you seen success for such things?
So this we have seen mostly like the US airspace, but we also know through some of our, people who have done similar research that on roads as well, this is similar, because fundamentally what we exploit, or what kind of features we capture, is that the traffic on certain roads, or let's say wind and weather in certain parts of the airspace are correlated with other parts. And once we know how those correlations function, we can say, okay, if I collect information here, I know something about the area around it with some level of precision, right? And actually modeling that physics combined with this information collection then will tell us with what level of accuracy or precision do I know information in the surrounding areas. How can I use that based on who sensed and at what time they sensed, where and when, and use that to say, now the next agent that is going to pass through the system, what is the best thing they should do, right? So we are actually going to capture a combination of the physics, the optimization, and the learning.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think online as well. If somebody could check online if there are any questions. Ravi.
When does an optimal solution that you have come up doesn't suddenly become optimal, and how do you deal with it? Have you seen that?
Yeah, and in the non-stationary environments, that is the problem, right? That we cannot measure optimality. So what we are measuring is long-term regret. We over a long period of time, are we doing something that is overall going to be good enough, right, and close enough to the best we can do? We cannot say that because optimality cannot be measured in such a fluctuating system. So that is why you cannot use the notion of optimality itself, because optimality, if you slice time narrowly enough, it won't be optimal, right? Or over a 1 day period of time versus over a year's worth of time, your decisions will, the value and the quality of your decision will change, right? So therefore, the way to measure it is not optimality at all.
Hello, ma'am. Hello. Good evening. Actually, earlier you mentioned that in model we have to incorporate the human preference, and we know the human preference is dynamic in nature.
Yes.
So suppose we are building the sense of data we are collected through the human preference, some data, and we build a model. So is there any different evaluation studies, like how we evaluate the model on different strategies? Can you put light on this?
Yeah, we haven't had enough data to be able to look at the variation in human behavior. So we were only able to get about 2 months worth of data. But we know for a fact, because in the next several months that behavior changed. So this is an endogenous problem. That means your service level will actually influence human behavior, and the human behavior will in turn influence the performance and the service level of the system. So it turns out to be a cyclic thing. It's not going to be like a one-step optimization approach. So that's what we told the provider, that you cannot solve this in a one shot, but as you change your ambulance allocation and your service level, people will actually trust you more, which means that they will abandon you less, which means that again your service level will improve and so on. Over time, maybe some equilibrium will be reached, but we were not able to get the data to validate that. They told us more verbally, right, that yes, we found that, but we did not get actual data with respect to that.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so I think a lot of interesting questions. And I think Lavanya had an answer for every one of them as expected. Thank you so much, Lavanya, for joining us and sharing your thoughts. I think we'll have more conversations, right, as we take up. Oh, there's an online question, right? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a question from Mr. Ramachandran Balakrishnan. So his question is, in the context of freight, how easy has it been to collect the data that is often perceived to be proprietary? Are there any government level data sets that are useful?
So government level data sets have been more aggregated. For us, what has been helpful is to actually deal with individual providers at, let's say, for example, ports. There are, let's say, at every terminal at a port, there is a terminal manager, which is a company or so on. they have been able to give us data with regards to the freight movements, and that is like a central source as opposed to, let's say, trying to collect with every trucking company or so on. So that has been more efficient for us as opposed to like trying to collect government data or even go to trucking companies separately, because the ports actually want to measure their own performance and make themselves more efficient, looking at the volumes that move through, and they are able to give us, data which is not violating privacy, but just tells us like quality. So for example, that's why I said you get a distribution of the type of commodities and their costs and their delivery times. And that is what we use. So we don't get individual information, but we're able to say, if there is a container of this type, this is the decision you should make. That gives us enough granularity to give us efficient decisions.
Great. I think Rama is up early morning listening. Thanks, Rama, for the question. And yeah, so thank you, Lavanya, for the talk. Like I said, we'll have more conversations going forward as MInT starts working on some of this data. I think some very interesting ideas that we can collaborate on. Thank you so much. Yeah, the entire, all 3 days is available on YouTube. So you'll be able to view the recordings on YouTube, but we'll see how we can also get the presentations shared in a folder. So our next speaker is Professor Shiva Srinivasan. So Shiva is professor at University of Florida, and he works quite a bit in the area of behavior that you are also asking questions on, travel behavior. But today I think he's going to talk on a slightly different topic, more aligned with what we were discussing here in the MInT Summit. So he's going to talk about transit automation, right, and using simulation models, right. So great to have you here, Shiva. Over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Geeta, and thank you all. Very good evening. Hope I'm audible. I know I have to be audible to the online audience as well. So again, it's great to be back at. You can. All right. So it's great to be back at IITM. So I graduated here BTech Civil Engineering '99. So that was even the previous millennium. But we trying to come back. We even had. I messaged Geeta, and then something will come up. So I'm very glad that it worked out this time. So I'm like great, very happy to be back here. So I'm in the faculty in transportation engineering at University of Florida, and I guess just some quick acknowledgements. Pretty much all of what I'm going to be talking about today is part of PhD work of my student Bryce Graham, so I'll acknowledge that. And then this work is also part of our iStreet, living lab research. So as you can see, iStreet is an acronym. It has nothing to do with the Apple or Apple products, but no funding from them. But the idea about iStreet is it's a collaborative effort among the Florida Department of Transportation, the City of Gainesville, the University of Florida, and several mobility partners. So the idea is, maybe a technology company wants to implement some sort of a technology and evaluate it. So they go to Florida Department of Transportation and express their interest. Florida Department might say, oh, this might be relevant to us. So then we work with the City of Gainesville to actually deploy the technologies onto our roadways, and then University of Florida will undertake the research to evaluate it and so on. So this work, at least what led to this work, was part of an iStreet related project. And so we've had several University of Florida Transportation Institute colleagues and students who have contributed to this effort. So I just want to acknowledge all their efforts. Okay. So sort of as a quick outline, we'll talk about what the main research questions, how did we go about doing it. I'll give you some ideas about the study area, some results, and then what were some of the broad conclusions from the study itself. And then I'll try to tie it to the theme of this summit of digital twins. Okay? So it's a very broad and very simple type of a question. So suppose if you take a corridor and then you replace all the traditional human-driven buses by automated transit, what does that do to the operations and safety of that corridor? Right? So this is the very basic question that we are trying to ask. To add a little bit of nuance, automated buses is not a homogeneous, it's not a one single entity, there are different types of it. So we want to see how does it affect depending upon what kind of an automated bus we are talking about. And then what about all the background traffic? What about all the other traffic? It's not just there's only going to be buses. So we are talking about the US context, so there is no auto rickshaws or two-wheelers, only cars. It's a much simpler environment than in Chennai or in India. So we are asking the question, what if the rest of the cars are entirely regular human-driven cars? What if some of them are automated? What if 25% of them are automated? What if 50% of them are automated? So on and so forth. Right? So this is the basic question that we are trying to answer in this particular study. So I said that we want to look at how it affects operations and safety. So how do we measure it? Right? How do we know that operations have improved or deteriorated? How do we know that safety has improved or deteriorated? So operations, in this case, we are going to take a simple measure of corridor travel time. So what is the average travel time in that corridor with under each of these particular scenarios? Okay. What about safety? Okay. So the general measure of safety is accidents, it's crashes, right? So that's how we generally measure the safety of a transportation system. But then we are talking about scenarios here which do not exist in the real world. So we really don't have many autonomous buses driving with 25% autonomous cars, etc. So we have to do all these evaluations in a simulated environment. Now once you use a traffic simulator, within a traffic simulator, accidents will never happen, right? Like, so the simulators are programmed to make sure that laws of physics are followed, you never bump into the other cars, etc. So we cannot use crash as a metric for safety. Rather, we are going to use a surrogate safety measure. We are going to use near misses or conflicts. Okay. So what it means is that the two vehicles came close enough that there was a danger of an accident, but the accident didn't happen. Okay. And in this particular, we are going to focus on rear end, one vehicle bumping into the other. When we looked at about 5-10 years of crash data, accident data on the corridors that we studied, rear end crashes were the most dominant ones, so we thought that that was the biggest problem, so we'll focus on that. Okay. And to further operationalize that, we are going to use the time to collision as the metric. So if you have two vehicles, the time to collision is simply the distance between the two vehicles divided by the relative velocity. Okay. And we calculate that. So suppose if the front vehicle were to suddenly stop, what is the time it takes for the collision to happen if the rear vehicle is continuing to travel at that same speed? So we said that if the time to collision is less than 1.5 seconds, those kinds of conflicts are dangerous. Okay. Now where does this 1.5 seconds come from? It is very close to our standard reaction time, right? So if we detect a problem, it's going to take us about 1 to 2 seconds to take action, right? That's the reaction time. So if the time is less than the reaction time, we just can't do anything about it, okay? So that's kind of what we are using as a metric. So safety is measured using a surrogate safety measure, time to collision less than 1.5 seconds, operations using the corridor travel time. So how did we go about doing this? So we started with a traffic simulation model. In this case, we used AIMSON. So we took standard corridors, we coded the geometry, we coded the signal timing, we coded the traffic volumes. We tried to calibrate it against local conditions to a reasonable extent against observed values. So we have a calibrated model of a traffic simulator. And the traffic simulator gives us various operational measures like travel times, delays, etc. And the simulator will also give us the trajectories of each one of the vehicles that is simulated over the entire corridor. Now we take the trajectories, .trj files it produces, and then we put it into another model called the SAM, Surrogate Safety Assessment Module. This is developed by the Federal Highway Administration. So the idea is it's going to look at each one of the trajectories of each of the vehicles. It is going to look at each instant, and it is going to calculate the time to collision between every pair of vehicles, so on and so forth. And then we can set thresholds, and then we can get all these safety performance measures. So we took all the data, did a bunch of post-processing to be able to do all these kinds of analysis. So it's all simulation models. It is not quite a digital twin yet. So it is the previous generation of digital twins, if you want to think about it that way. But I think this is kind of what we have available, and then we can talk later about what we could do if we had a full digital twin. So this is the study area that we use. So this whole area is the University of Florida campus. And then you have University Avenue in the north, Archer in the south, 34th Street and 13th Street on the two sides. So we took the 34th Street corridor and the 13th Street corridor as our test cases to do all this what-if analysis. Just to give you some context, 34th Street, which you saw here, this is a longer stretch, this is a shorter one, and the speed limits comparable, 45 miles per hour on one, 30 on the other. This 34th Street is wider, there are some turn lanes, etc. That's why you have an odd number of lanes. And then both of them have 7 signalized intersections, and both of them have 11 transit routes on these things. So in terms of the signals, etc., it's similar, but the signal density is higher on 13th. It's over a much shorter space, and then there is other differences in terms of the traffic configurations. So this is what we want to simulate. So we want to study these two corridors, and so what are the types of cars, what are the types of automobiles that we want to consider. So we'll start, the basic condition is the human-driven vehicle, and then we added the human-driven connected vehicle. So the idea is that these vehicles can receive messages. In this context, it is a speed reduction message. Because we are talking about rear-end collisions, the best way is to sort of harmonize the speeds, lower the speeds. So we said that any vehicle entering this corridor is asked to slow down. And if you are a connected vehicle, you will get the message, and the human, we assume, that will comply, which is another big assumption, as we all know. We are not great at complying, right? Then we looked at connected automated vehicles. That's a full self-driving car. And then we looked at two types of connected automated vehicles, what we call as an aggressive vehicle and a conservative vehicle. Okay. Now, once you go into automated vehicles, we are really taking the human reaction time away. We are taking the human out of it. So these vehicles can react very quickly. They can follow other vehicles very quickly, and so on. So in that sense, if you want to do a lane change, and things like that, an automated vehicle can really be quite aggressive and get into very narrow gaps. Okay, it's physically possible. But if you're a passenger in that kind of a vehicle, would we be comfortable with the vehicle doing that? Maybe not, right? So it's physically possible, but maybe we might have to slow down so that to take care of the human comfort levels. So we have the aggressive, which is, okay, let's try to get into all sorts of narrow gaps, we'll do it, whatever, and then we'll look at the conservative, maybe not as much, and so on. Then the buses, right? This is the bigger focus. So again, we started off with the human-driven transit, and then we just said that the buses again can be retrofitted, just like you take the car and make it a self-driving car. It can be an aggressive bus, or it can be a conservative bus. But most of the automated transit that is out there, they are not full-sized buses. Most of them are actually shuttles. They are much smaller minibuses. That's what is actually, many of the things are actually happening in practice. So we wanted to evaluate that. So we took two examples. The low-speed shuttle, as an example, we took Beep has implemented a shuttle in Lake Nona area in Florida. And we have some other colleagues who have done some work with that. So we took that as the low-speed shuttle. And then as an example of a high-speed shuttle, which is still not super high speed, we just took the Holon shuttle and we used its dimensions, etc., to model that. Okay? There we go, right, next. Right? So regular buses, so he knows me, he can read my mind. So the regular buses are about 50 passengers, but these are about 10 passengers each. So if I have to provide the same seating capacity as a regular bus, I have to provide 5 shuttles when there is one bus. Okay? Now, how do you deploy this? This can be done in 2 ways. One is a platooning, right? So you can think of it as 5 buses as a train going one after the other as a connected vehicle, as a chain, so that it gives you the same capacity as a regular bus. Or you can distribute it in non-platooning sense. So if you had, let's say, one bus over that entire 1 hour period, you can have the 5 shuttles every 12 minutes, one every 12 minutes, so that over the entire 1 hour period you have exactly the same capacity, but then they don't move as a sort of a chain or a train. So we looked at both options, like, when the vehicles are platooning versus not. So if you can see the examples here, this could be a big bus, like I hope the dimensions are a little bit clear. This could be a smaller shuttle, and then this could be a case where you have shuttles platooning within the system. So we have all these kinds of scenarios in our situation. So how do you tell a simulation model, this is a human-driven vehicle, this is a connected vehicle, this is an aggressive connected vehicle, etc. So there's a whole bunch of parameters that we can play with. Again, to give you some examples, the aggressive one, we set the aggressive level to be as high as possible, which means that the lane changing, etc., is going to be much more higher. For the conservative, it is much lower. So that is one difference between the two. If you look at human-driven vehicles, you see that there is a range in the aggressiveness level. So what it means is that we are all not identical as drivers. So we all have different aggressiveness levels. So if we are all driving, then each one of us will behave in a slightly different way. But once we replace this with autonomous systems, we are introducing homogeneity. All the cars will have the same aggressive level. There's going to be the same algorithm that is going to be controlling all these things. So we are taking out some of the randomness and replacing it with homogeneity as well. Okay? And then the reaction time, like the human reaction time, is about 1.6 seconds. So if you're at a traffic light, it turns green. Before you actually start moving, it's going to be at least 1.6 seconds. But the autonomous vehicles, it's instantaneous, right? Because there's no human involved, so it can really read, detect, and do it in a quick manner. So you can play around with a bunch of these parameters to recognize the different types of vehicles in the system. Okay. Now, once it comes to shuttles, for all these other vehicle types, we are generally using the car following, lane changing algorithms that are available within the Aimsun software to move the vehicles within the system. But in the case of a non-platooning shuttle, because some models were actually calibrated using Beep's implementation in Lake Nona, we were just using some of the research from them. And now in the platooning case, all the 5 vehicles will have to move as a train. So we are using a coordinative adaptive cruise control type models which will move that platoon together. So we are using different kinds of models to implement that. Now, one of the things that I generally want to make is, like, when you make a change, when you want to study transit automation, you are not changing one parameter. We are changing dozens of parameters, so you have to appropriately accommodate all these things into the system in this analysis. All right. So we have so many different types of transit vehicles. We have 3 different types of cars, and the cars can be 25% of the traffic, 50% of the traffic, 75%, whatever. And then we are doing this for each of the corridors. So we were simulating this for the AM peak. We end up with 104 scenarios across all these combinations. and then we did 30 simulations per scenario. So something that I guess my PhD student probably wouldn't want to think about it or redo, but then it's all done. He's good to graduate. We took all these 104 results, right? 104 simulation results. You have the travel times, you have all these things, and then if you look at the travel time, we did a simple meta model, a regression model on the averages across all the 104. And the main things that we were seeing is like, when you are just changing the buses to retrofit, like, 1:1 change, the travel times really did not change that much. And as would be expected, when you have slower shuttles, the travel time is higher, okay? And if they were deployed as a platoon, the increase is less, right? So it means that they are still able to travel faster than the non-platooning case, okay? Now, some of these is obvious, right? Like you don't need a simulation model to tell you that if you introduce a slow-moving vehicle, travel time will increase. That's not the point. But the bigger question is how much will it increase, right? So if you go and tell the public, we are going to introduce a shuttle, they are all worried, oh my God, the traffic is going to be really bad. But with this kind of an analysis, you can say that the maximum increase across all the scenarios is between 30 seconds and 1 minute. So over that 2 kilometer, 1 kilometer stretch, on an average, you're going to see a 1 minute increase, and that might be able to pacify the people a little bit more instead of just looking at the overall numbers. Yeah. With the connected automated vehicles, we saw that the travel times increases. We implemented a speed control strategy. We asked the vehicles to slow down, and automated vehicles follow the rules. Human-driven vehicles need not follow the rules. So whenever you have these kinds of things, if you reduce the speed limit and if you have automated vehicles, travel time will increase because all the automated vehicles will follow the rules and not try to overspeed. And then again, some minor differences between just the connected and the CAVs. If you look at the near misses, so we also looked at what is the total number of near misses that are happening on that entire corridor over that entire 1 hour period. Okay? Similar effects relative to a regular bus, retrofitting doesn't change that much. But once you introduce shuttles, the number of conflicts increase a lot, right? At that 1.5 second threshold. And again, platooning seems to help because like you cannot have any vehicles come between those 5 cars. So the number of possible conflicts is somewhat less when you have a platooning situation versus a non-platooning situation. And again, the maximum increase in the number of conflicts that we were seeing is between 1,000 and 1,500. What does this mean? That's a big question that we need to understand and answer. Because if I said that there is going to be 3 more accidents, I think we can all understand what that means. But if I tell you that 3 accidents could have happened but were prevented, that's still a fuzzy concept for all of us. So I think that, we can start generating some new numbers, but we need to start having more discussions about what this means from a practical sense. Is 1,000 more conflicts something alarming, something to be scared about, or is it, it's okay, it's only 1,000, it's not such a big deal, right? So that's something that we still have to deal with. Again, one of the big things is with increased percentage of automated vehicles in the traffic, obviously the conflicts decreased. The vehicles, the cars can navigate the system much better, reaction times are quick, so on and so forth. And then the conflicts are more for connected vehicles. This is when human drivers are involved. And connected automated vehicles, the conflicts are less. This is again because of the homogeneity and the quick response, so on and so forth, right? So if you want to look at a trade-off, and I think this is something that we need to start doing in all our traffic analysis, is to do an operations safety trade-off. Generally, these are 2 different subjects in transportation engineering. Even if you look at transportation agencies, there are some people in charge of operations and there are other people in charge of safety, and sometimes they don't talk to each other. But we really need to start looking at this kind of a trade-off. So you can see that the slow-moving shuttles are probably worst in terms of increasing the travel times and conflicts. The fast-moving shuttles are somewhere in the middle. And really, when you have the no transit case, that's really when you have the fewer number of rear-end conflicts and travel times, and the retrofitted type of buses is kind of doing best in terms of these situations. So the kind of same type of a structure that we saw for the 34th Street as well. Okay? So overall, I think we do see that as we keep adding shuttles, as we keep adding automated transit, etc., the corridor travel times increased, conflicts also increased. But if the shuttles are in a platoon versus independent, that seems to alleviate things a little bit better. Maybe that's something to think about. Of course, with more and more automated vehicles in the stream, the conflicts decrease, the travel time increases because we are slowing them all down and they comply. And of course, the biggest thing is all the magnitude of change is context specific. And this is really the value of simulation models. This is the value of digital twins, is we can actually come up with some sort of an estimate. We intuitively understand the direction of effect. We know that should it go down, less, that we can generally understand, but we cannot use intuition alone to tell us by how much. And these simulation models are a great way of calculating that value, and we can do all sorts of sensitivity tests. What if I had assumed 2 seconds as a threshold instead of 1.5 seconds? You can redo this whole analysis and look at what's happening. So it's a great tool to do all kinds of sensitivity analysis. Right? So I think to sort of summarize and maybe try to tie it to the theme of the summit and a lot of discussions that have already been mentioned today, simulation models is kind of a workhorse already in the transportation profession. And that is being used extensively for operations. If you want to look at what happens to travel times, if you want to look at what happens to queue lengths, if you want to look at what happens to delay, all that stuff, great tool. We have been using it for many years. But if you also want to bring in safety into the mix, that's a little bit of a problem, right? Like, these traffic operation models do not, there won't be any crashes within a simulator. So we need to integrate it with a surrogate safety analysis module and so on. Starting here, I think that digital twins have this great potential for this sort of next generation models for evaluating this operational safety trade-offs. Okay? A lot of the safety will be evaluated based on vehicle trajectories. So the more data we get about real trajectories, whether it's from vehicle telemetrics or roadside sensors or whatever, then we can do a much better job of predicting the trajectories, and therefore we can do a much better job of predicting the safety, the conflicts, and so on. Okay? Now, we want to use these the digital twin tools to make decisions. That is great. Yes, that's the ultimate goal. But even before we get there, I think it is a phenomenal educational tool because you can see, what does it mean for 1,000 conflicts to happen over a 1 hour period on this corridor? You can actually see it. You can show it to a traffic engineer, you can show it to all these different stakeholders, and then they can understand, oh, okay, this is what it means. And so that is a very good teaching tool. I think we already had some mentions about how we are bringing different systems together. The energy people have to talk to the transportation people, will have to talk to the other people. But how do you communicate? Like, how do you explain your transportation problem to an energy person? Having these kinds of tools, especially the visualization part of it, is a very powerful tool to first get an understanding and buy-in, which can eventually lead to more integrated decision making and results and so on. And I think my last point is also related to that. All these AI tools, etc., can generate a lot of new metrics for us. So there is a danger that we'll drown in data. So I think we need to be able to have this kind of a tool, maybe bring stakeholders together and show them this is what 1,000 conflicts look like, and then you do all sorts of sensitivity analysis on the fly, and then have this understanding, translate the metrics that we are getting out of these tools to what it means in the real world. And getting that understanding is extremely interesting and important. And I hope that a lot of this initiatives work that's going to happen with MInT, like the next couple of days and over the years, there'll be an opportunity to address all these things. So with that, I'll stop. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'm happy to answer more questions. Thank you. So, not necessarily, because in our examples, we said that since we wanted to improve safety, we said we gave a message, the connected automated vehicles get a message to slow down explicitly. So that is one of the big reasons why the travel times were increasing. But if not, if just because there is automated vehicle, the travel time won't increase. Yes, the safety did improve. Oh yeah. So as the percentage of automated vehicles increases, the number of collisions, this parameter keeps going more and more negative. So because you're taking away the heterogeneity, all the automated vehicles are similar and they react very quickly, conflicts do decrease.
Thank you, Shiva. This is an amazing set of studies. One of the assumptions you have here is that the autonomous vehicles are able to react instantaneously, which is great. But there is also something that happens with autonomous vehicles. They are very adaptable. They are learning, right? As they are learning, they learn human behaviors. Okay, and we've seen that in what happens with the automated taxis in the US, right? So if human behavior is, if the speed limit is 50 and you can go up to 55 and not get a ticket, they will drive at 55, okay? And the rules are the automated vehicles learn that as well. So similarly, from a reaction time perspective, as well as in terms of how they operate, right, changes. I don't know if you've considered these actually in the modeling that you've done, or is that something that we have to leave to the world of digital twins to be able to kind of actually do?
Good point. So yeah, so as you can see, the speed acceptance for human driven is 1.1, which means that the human beings can overspeed, whereas it's 1 for all the others, which means that they are compliant. So in this example, we are assuming that automated vehicles will not overspeed. We are assuming that if it is an aggressive, it's going to behave one way. If it's conservative, it is going to behave the other way, right? Like, so we are making very simple assumptions, sort of extreme case assumptions in this case. I don't have the simulation results for the scenarios that you're mentioning, but those are all plausible. But again, that's where a tool comes in. So you can expand this work, and then you can say, okay, what if my automated vehicle also has a range, right? Like, so there are 4 manufacturers of automated vehicles. They each have a different way of aggressiveness and so on. So you can set these thresholds differently and see what is going to happen. So this tool is capable of analyzing it, but I have not done this yet in this study, and I don't know exactly what the outcomes would be with that. I would think that the conflicts will not reduce as much, and maybe the travel times can also be affected if you allow a little bit of speeding. So that would be my intuition, but we can expand it, but I have not done this yet in the study.
Right, but okay, maybe the actual question that I was getting to is, you have these learning machines.
Mm-hmm.
So in this world of learning machines, having these types of simulation models, which are in some sense are rule-based.
Yes.
They start to, in some sense, fail,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I was asking for your thoughts on, would we need to transition from this world of simulation? You said they were the workhorse of how we kind of operated. Is it now the time to transition?
Absolutely, yes. So I think so a lot of the models, a lot of the traffic simulation models are largely like physics-based rules that you use to move, and then you make sure that constraints are followed and so on. But if you have dynamically learning systems, then if we need to even evaluate whether the trajectories that are generated by those rule-based systems accurately depict the real-world trajectories. And so maybe we need a digital twin, maybe we need those empirical real-time data and adjustments so that we get better. So yeah, I mean, for aggregate operational measures, rule-based models are okay. But if you're trying to go into detailed vehicle interactions and safety and so on, I think we probably have to go beyond traditional rule-based models.
Hi. My name is Navina Swami, and I work on autonomous vehicles, and I'm a co-founder of a startup called Make GPT. So I've driven on autonomous vehicles in San Francisco, Waymo and others, and also at Moscone. And what I find is between the theoretical limits applied in a lab versus an environment when you're riding on a vehicle, and the behaviors of the autonomous vehicles is completely different. They seem to have a certain characteristics to take dangerous movements at times, which is like coming to the human mind would say, I would not cross this yellow light, but it has a calculation theoretical to say that I can beat this light and go. And I've seen real aggressive behavior. So what it implies is the theoretical limits that we assume in a lab environment will not match. Because the environmental conditions, whether you're seeing glass or you're seeing a barrier or a bollard, is completely different. And that's why I believe that it's super important that we take from lab to the road and really have real data and ensure that we are able to provide good thresholds of margins of safety and not taking risks. And I would think that it's time to get to that point, and I would advocate that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So if you think of this study, this is more like taking the extremes. What if it's most aggressive, and what if it's most conservative? And what you're saying is there's a spectrum, right? Like, you know, it depends on the context. So from a modeling perspective, yes, you know, it is unreasonable to say that all 100% of the autonomous vehicles will be aggressive 100% of the time. So yeah, those adaptations will have to, so we need to start relaxing all these things. And once we want to do that and test, you know, from 104 scenarios to 1,000 scenarios or 100,000 scenarios, you know, maybe Geeta's additional GPUs will help there, and like, you know, having all those additional models. But your point is very well taken. Yeah, we need to start doing all that in that spectrum. Yep.
So thank you very much for the presentation. It is clear that a lot of work has been done behind this presentation, so very much appreciated. And also the notion of combining safety and operations in traffic, that this division has to go away. And I'm really glad you made this point.
Thank you.
My question is about representativeness. You explained to us that accidents do not occur in simulations, therefore simulation results cannot be representative in terms of traffic accidents. We know that they are reasonably representative for operations because we calibrate delays and queuing and all of that. In order to be representative in terms of TTC or surrogate measures, do you need to calibrate TTC? Did you calibrate TTC?
That's a great question, and unfortunately the answer is no. So we do not have even that 25% market penetration. We do not have the real world data of some of those vehicle trajectories to be able to calibrate for a trajectory, right? Like, so that is still something that we are starting to look at. And then, like, we know that we can tweak all these parameters to match operational metrics like queue lengths and so on. We also know with some basic simulation stuff, not all of these things are very sensitive to the detailed trajectory. So we may need newer parameters within our simulation model. We may have to go beyond this to get the trajectories to sort of calibrate a traffic simulation model from a safety perspective. This was done only from an operations perspective. We did not do it. We are kind of assuming that the trajectories are still okay, at least for some of this. For the slow shuttle, that was a separately calibrated based on a few shuttle observations in Lake Nona. So that model was adjusted a little bit. Some of the lane changing models were adjusted. But for the automated vehicles and so on, we didn't calibrate it against the trajectory of an automated vehicle to make sure that it matches. But your point is well taken. Yeah, it's very good.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
And one observation and one question. Observation is more of feedback and a lot of validation to what you're doing, because we've been in the last 2-3 years studying what it means to have fully automated vehicles running in slow speeds inside factories for material handling versus them interacting with driver-operated vehicles. And a lot of these are exactly spot on in terms of, we didn't build a very elaborate simulator, but we've compared a lot of these behavioral aspects and accidents versus, there has been in fact increase in, here the metric is cycle time, right, for material handling. So that's the observation. So this is great, and I'd love to read more about what you're doing, right? My question's more on what made you pick platooning in the city context? Because yes, there are advantages to platooning. I know you just picked the spectrum of scenarios, but was there a specific interest to pick platooning when you have smaller vehicles but that are platooning in the city context? Because there's also variability there where platooning can get disrupted a lot more in the city context than the highway context. So just curious to hear what your thoughts are on that.
So good point. Like the study area that we picked, this is right near university campus, and we were simulating the AM peak. So the traffic, the vehicles, the transit vehicles are close to capacity. There's a significant amount of boarding and alightings. It's full at that time, right? So we wanted to see, okay, if you're going to shuttle, change to shuttle, we also wanted to deliver that same capacity of the seating at that same instant. So which means that it has to be in the form of a shuttle. But we didn't want to just limit it to that, so we said, okay, what if we just distribute it over that? So that was again like, trying to look at extreme case and recognizing this is a AM peak, and then we would need that number of people. So that was kind of more of a contextual motivation. But again, like, one could play around with, why does it have to be either a platoon or this? Maybe there are, here platooning, there may not be practical problems because the intersections are significantly spaced. Here, these are pretty close to each other, so there may be practical problems of running the shuttle. So we have to consider all those things as well and make it context specific. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Myself Raghunandan, and my question is regarding the unpredictability or the edge cases that happen when we are taking into real world concerns. So in simulation, as we similar to what ma'am said, there might not be some situations that happen on real world scenarios. So like, for example, what if there's some LiDAR sensors, or during some rain scenarios, the cameras get blurred or something. So would we have any fallbacks in those cases? Because these are safety constraints and life would be depending on it. So would there be any fallbacks in case of any failure in the equipments of like sensors or LiDARs? because those things can affect the prediction accuracy, right? So both there be any fallbacks?
No, correct. So, so that is where a traditional traffic simulation, we hit the limits of a traditional traffic simulation model. And so suppose if instead of generating all this background traffic using a physics-based traffic simulation model, if I'm actually collecting the real world data, and then I'm running autonomous vehicles in that, in a digital twin type of an environment, we can actually evaluate the kind of things that you're talking about. So suddenly we are collecting data when it's raining and everybody is slowing down, suddenly something is happening. Those, again, bad weather doesn't show up in a traffic simulator, right? Like, so everything is kind of idealized conditions. So the more we get into a digital twin, the more we get into using the real traffic flows, and the background is real. Only the automated transit is the artificial, right? So that is the counterfactual that you're adding to it. So that starts making it more realistic, and that's kind of where, like, you know, the transition from simulation models to the digital twins will help really effectively and get into more realistic evaluations.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, you had a question. Yes. Good question. So the question was, you know, we are assuming full level 5 automation, completely self-driving cars. So there is only, it's either human driven 0 or 5. So we did not consider the individual levels. There is no reason why we cannot, but again, for most parts, in terms of all the parameters, you can see that we kind of look at the edges, right? Everything human, everything fully automated, everything aggressive, everything conservative. So it's like kind of the boundary conditions. But when you have a mix, I think that those are actually the more dangerous and more realistic cases. And we have to, you know, I think the chief guest was saying the transition is not going to be instantaneous. So we have to live through, you know, 20% level to 30% level, 40%. We have to live through all that stuff before we get to 5. So it will be very important to evaluate that, and so that we can give the public a little bit more confidence, right? Like, you know, the mix, the heterogeneity is from a safety perspective more dangerous. The more homogeneous it gets, eventually it's going to be better. So yes, that's a great point, but no, we did not look at it here. So this is just a near miss. So there is no accidents here. There is none. Yeah, because we are using rule-based models, the simulator cannot put two vehicles in the same space, right? So it is going to do something to sort of fix it. So what we are seeing is there a potential, right? Like, did two vehicles, how many times did two vehicles come close enough, right? If not for the simulator holding them, an accident could have happened. So that's our measure of conflict from that perspective. So it. I know you have a question.
So Mr. Rama has written, he has a conjecture that an autonomous vehicle following speed rules will create space in front for opportunistic human drivers to cut into. This will have safety and shock wave issues. So is the simulation model capable of capturing this potential behavioral phenomenon?
So great question. So when I was talking about the conflicts here, I was just talking about the total number of conflicts. I did not separate it by, is it a conflict between two human-driven vehicles, or is it a conflict between a human-driven vehicles and a CAV and so on. We did some preliminary studies where we tried to separate it by type, and I think we do observe that. So if you have if you have a connected vehicle, an automated vehicle behind a human-driven vehicle, this connected vehicle can, if there is a sudden braking, this vehicle behind can react very quickly and accidents can be prevented. But if it's the other way around, if the connected vehicle is in front and the human driver is behind, the connected vehicle can react very quickly, but the human cannot match it. So that is still a safety problem. So we are able to see that which combinations are able to create this problem to some extent, but we have not gone too deeply into that study yet. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to be between you and your dinner, but I'm also happy to answer questions.
Yeah, okay. So thank you for your great presentation. I find it very exhaustive work. So quick clarification. So as I understand, you didn't consider the interaction between human vehicles and autonomous vehicles, right?
No, there is. So if you have 25% automated cars, the remaining 75% of the cars are human vehicles.
What I was asking is that how the behavior of the human vehicle will change when there is a autonomous
Good
vehicle.
point. No. So we are assuming that the human vehicles are guided by the same car following, lane changing models, whether or not the automated. So again, we need to start changing too many parameters, and then you want to get into more of the realism. We're not quite there yet. Yeah.
No. Here's a proposition, right? So clearly, IIT Madras, we are on the path of digital twins. So I would suggest that we enter into doing a joint kind of effort in terms of kind of maybe pioneering this transition, right? How do we actually move to use digital twins, both from an operations perspective and safety perspective, right? So let's kind of embrace that challenge and kind of go towards that.
I mean, I would love that. It's a very, very, very interesting topic, and if there's an opportunity for collaboration, I'm certainly happy to explore that. But I know you've been waiting for so long. Sorry.
I'm not sure if this is really a question or not, or a doubt or not. But since we are trying to create a model that where the vehicles are driving on its own, the vehicles should be capturing the data from the environment at a particular interval, right? So what is the assumption that you have taken? At what interval you are expecting the vehicles to take the data from the environment?
In this study,
because I thought, why I'm asking, I thought that interval should be affecting the results. That's what my question is.
It's a good point. So the resolution of the simulation itself is close to 1 second. I think close to about 1 second, it updates the status of every vehicle within the field, right? So that might have an implication even if the autonomous vehicle itself is collecting on a decisecond basis, because the simulation engine is really operating at a 1 second basis, so there might be a time resolution in terms of that, and we cannot measure anything less than that 1 second. Like how did the vehicle move within that 1 second? We really don't know. I just know that the vehicle was here at 10 seconds and here at 11 seconds. So I think we are just discovering more and more of this, enhancements to where we need to take a simulation model to a real world digital twin model.
No, but the answer would be we need to have autonomous vehicles on the road. Problem solved.
So, quick.
At least in the US, a lot of people don't want to give up driving, so there is that also. So we have to consider.
So, quick point here, right? I mean, when we initially started using VisSim for traffic simulation here in India, I don't know if maybe Rocco, maybe remembering from early days when we were doing that, we changed some parameters and we ended up having two-wheelers inside buses. So we were having actual conflicts when we had to calibrate it for Indian traffic conditions. We observed actual conflicts happening, right? I don't know if
Yeah.
They take the vehicle out. Wisdom will take the vehicle out, right? We observed those as well. And another point, right? I mean, 7 intersection signals within 1.2 kilometers. I mean, Chennai will never accept something like that, you know. So, yeah.
No, I mean, I think like this is an oversimplified exercise when you think about Chennai conditions.
Yeah.
But even with this, we have so many enhancements to make. Then when you throw in
All
Chennai
the
on top of it, then I think like, you know, it's just going to be fascinating. Everything, yeah.
Thanks. Over to Soumya.
I actually have some questions, but I know it's not the right time. I'll probably catch you over dinner on how you would address some computing bottlenecks really between,
Sure.
especially in the rail scenario. I have some questions on that, but I'll catch you at dinner. Thank you, sir. I think we enjoyed the candor and a tongue-in-cheek humor as well. Amidst a very... It's not... Okay, maybe I have it away. So, also thanks to Professor Lavanya Marla for that fascinating intersection of technology and logistics and how AI can build a resilient, optimized transport network for tomorrow. Thanks to both of you. We've had a very colorful evening, I'd say, today. We do have dinner arranged for everybody. A request from all of us, we'd like you to leave your tags at the registration desk. If you plan to come tomorrow and day after, please feel free to take it, and please come back with the tags tomorrow and day after. If you are not planning to come tomorrow or day after, we'd request you to keep it at the registration desk. We are focused on sustainability. Thank you. Thank you again. We wrap it up today, unless... Over dinner, right? Okay. Right. Thank you. Thanks.